It is so difficult to not be run down by this at this point. Good news is, okay, first off, let me back up here real quick. Welcome all to the Civically Minded Nationalist, Episode 1, Part 1. Welcome. I have had nothing but technical difficulties trying to get this to work. And I actually had Episode 1 recorded and ready to go. And it was 0.2 gigs too big on each file. I have to have a strict 25-minute limit per episode. I just couldn't, no matter how I tried to edit it, I couldn't get rid of all the excess and still make it flow right. It just wasn't working. So, we're going to give it another shot and try to get parts 1 and 2 recorded quite quickly, get them posted, and move on. Good night. So difficult. To be honest, this isn't even actually episode 1. This is not actually episode 1. Episode 1 was entirely different topics, and they're irrelevant now, other than the framework that I came up with. Fabricated outrage framework, okay? And that's their tactic, but I can introduce that into whatever topic and make it work. So as the first couple podcasts come out, we'll get back to that and get it put back in. It's so doggone frustrating. Part the first, okay? You know, I tried to switch this around the first time I recorded it, and I actually, going back and listening to it, I realized I didn't like it anyway. So we're going to start part 1 with part 1. And that is, I've got my handy-dandy little outline here to help keep me on track, because I've been informed that my train of thought is something akin to, a freight train of circus animals crashing into an Amtrak of mental health patients. Thank you for that bit of advice, by the way. You know who you were. We're going to start actually with what I think is the most important thing to come to light here in the last few days. And maybe you missed this, maybe you didn't. If you've been following this for the whole time, you already know that this has happened, but why is it so important? We're going to talk about that here for part 1 of episode 1. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about this FBI admission that they, in fact, knew that there was nothing going for the Mueller investigation, for all this kind of crap that they were trying to pull off, all right? And then what happened to tip them over the edge, apparently, was Comey getting fired on the 9th of May, 2017. If you go back and look that up, you'll find it. That's the time frame and whatnot. And then the FBI immediately turns around and starts investigating Trump. And this is a slight paraphrase, because I didn't like the way their actual documentation worded it, for being a tool of Russian interference in the function of our country's government. Okay, in layman's terms, they actually, I skipped a line here. Knowingly or unwittingly being a tool of Russian interference in our country's government. They actually were full on investigating if he was a Russian plant. Which those of us paying attention knew what it was about. They never actually came outright and said that. They were trying to say, did he use Russian people to influence the election and things around him, not him directly. Okay, now we're getting into him directly. And there's actually, while that sounds like a small concession, there's actually the really big implications of that we're going to get into here. Now, thankfully, because I already closed this down after I thought I had the episode recorded, and I had like 22 tabs up and all this stuff. Thankfully, I remember what was on the tabs and what we're talking about here. Why does this actually matter? Why does this seemingly small admission, concession might be the more accurate word, why does it matter? Well, I'm going to tell you why it matters. The FBI was founded in 1909, 1908, somewhere in that ballpark. I might be off a couple of years. You guys get the idea. And I would speculate that well over half of its existence has been marred in corruption. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. We know this. There is no human character in history that was not corrupted by the authority that they had. Period. Some level of corruption touched every authority figure in history, to include the history of our country. There were aspects of George Washington that never came to light, or whatever, were kept down, but they were there. I assure you. It's just how it works. It's human nature. That's what happens. And right now, what is interesting about this, as time has gone on, it's gotten easier and easier and easier for the FBI to catalog and collate everyone's sins, if you will, using the word sins, loosely. You guys understand what I'm saying. They've been able to do this more and more effectively as time has gone on. They've gotten better at it. I mean, really, it's almost solely what they've focused on for the past 50 years. They're pretty good at what they do. Now, moving forward with this, the difference that we spotted here is, why is it around him? Why is it his administration? Why is what the media telling us the investigation's about is about everybody around him? Versus, what is the difference? Teeter! Excuse me. Sorry about that. Sometimes you gotta lay the hammer down and get him in line. What is the difference between that and investigating to see if he specifically was a knowing or unwitting tool of Russian interference? Dirt. There's no other way for me to put it. Dirt. This corrupt organization desperately needs to find some type of dirt, legitimate or otherwise, that they can pin on Trump. Cast your mind back to the election. What were they all saying? He's got dirt in his taxes. He won't release his taxes because he's got dirt in his taxes. That's the same logic then. They needed dirt on him. Yes, that was to be used to try to prevent him from winning the election, but they still needed dirt on him. The liberals, the left-wing communists in this country needed dirt on him. Moving forward, now he's won the election. And we've already seen the text messages and the emails and stuff. They did everything they could to stop him from winning the election. He still won. Now what do we do? Oh, crap. We gotta find something on this guy, and we gotta find it now. This is not Bill Clinton, okay? This guy has not made a dozen trips to Pedophile Island. We have to find something on him. Whether or not we expose it right now, whatever, but we need something in play. We need something in our pocket that we can hold against him. Don't believe me? Let's look at a couple other aspects of what was going on here during the election and the administrative processes and everything that goes hand in hand with that. They have no dirt on Trump, so they have to make it look like he's dirty in order to protect themselves from being exposed. Right now, they're using this as a shield. Okay? Don't forget that. That's the summation of everything that I was talking about. They have to have dirt on him or make it look like they have dirt on him to try to keep themselves from being exposed. Well, exposed from what? Well, let's look at what the FBI knows about Hillary Clinton. Okay? And we're going to start way back and go all the way up to more present stuff. Why Hillary Clinton? Well, not just because it's Hillary Clinton, but because she was the person running against Trump. If the FBI legitimately had a problem with Trump, I think it's going to be safe to say that they should have a problem with these things that they know about Hillary. Point one. She defended a child rapist early on in her career. Later on, joking about, we all knew he did it. We all knew he did these things. But they presented such a poor argument that we knew we could get him off. She knowingly defended a child rapist. Knew he did it. Admitted she knew he did it. But still got him off. And denied that child and that child's family justice. Pretty significant thing for the FBI to go, you're okay with doing this? but you think you should run a country? You're okay with denying justice to somebody knowing full well that they were wrong, that they were violated? Red flag number 1 for the FBI. Red flag number 2 for the FBI. Don't worry about that controller. I didn't like it anyway. Remote, whatever it is. Red flag number 2, the corruption at Watergate. I don't need to really go into this one. Everybody knows that she was tossed. She got booted out for being corrupt. She got booted out for having no moral integrity, no moral authority. Bye, gone. I mean, I think that's a pretty good red flag indicator right there. This one, I can see people seeing this as a reach, but I want to touch on it before we get into the more current situation. The kill list, the dead body list, the collateral damage list around the Clintons. Why do I bring that up? That's all speculation. Okay, fine. You want to keep your head in the sand and say it's all speculation? Go ahead. I'm not going to convince you otherwise. But go down the rabbit hole with me for a minute and see where my logic is in this. If literally anyone on the Republican ticket had this list of collateral damage, 29 people, arguably much larger than that, but I've narrowed it down to about 29 people you could arguably look at and go, this person was talking about having corruption, having information on something that could implicate the Clintons or their foundation or their campaign or whatever, something affiliated with the Clintons, and mysteriously wound up dead. 29 people. If the media could put that story out about anybody, let's throw Trump out there, don't you think they would have? They absolutely would have. They'd have been like, FBI, CIA, NSA, XYZ, ABC, everybody investigate now. Get people from PBS in his office to start tearing through files and find out what we can. The national media uproar would have been ridiculous. So speculation or not isn't necessarily the point. The fact of the matter is, if that information had been put out about anyone running against Hillary, you'd have had national headlines for months. And by the way, since I genuinely don't believe it's speculation, those things would have been brought to light and that person would be spending thousands of years in jail, if you will, their sentence-wise. But beyond that, I also want to make another point about that before we move forward. Do you think anyone working for the Clintons is getting their hitmen off Craigslist? Come on. They're using FBI, CIA, NSA agents, people, to conduct these activities, to execute American citizens on American soil. It's not that far of a stretch. The Obama administration publicly used a drone to execute an American citizen in Yemen, I think it was. Yes, the guy was a known terrorist and linked to terrorism. He still was an American citizen with American rights. His citizenship had not been revoked. They executed him with a drone strike. Not that hard to make the connection between that and U.S. citizens being executed on U.S. soil by alphabet agencies. Point being, nobody affiliated with the Clintons is using Craigslist to find their hitmen. Again, the FBI has to have dirt on people. Moving into more factual, evidence-based, not speculative comments. She maintained an illegal server on her property that, in fact, did contain classified information. I know the mainstream media didn't put it out there. But that server did, in fact, contain classified information and a very large amount of information directly linked to classified information. That's what we call sensitive information. Okay? Maintained a secret/top secret clearance, depending on when it was needed to be, during my military career in the Patriot missile system. I know how this stuff works. I know that is highly illegal. I know that if I had a server in my house that had a whole bunch of classified Patriot missile data on it, not necessarily There's very few things classified about Patriot Missile, but I worked with other affiliates of Patriot Missile that do have a lot of classified information about them. Those things, if I maintained a server with that stuff on it, my ass would be in jail. Don't believe me? Look at the sailor from the Navy. Took a photo of a room that can contain sensitive classified equipment. Didn't at the time he took the photo, but it could. So that whole zone was a no camera zone. He's in jail. Leavenworth. We know what she did was illegal, to the point that the FBI comes out and literally says if it was anyone else, they would be in jail. But since it's her, given the situation and everything, and blah 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 blah, we're not gonna put her in jail. We're not gonna press charges. Please. They don't want to end up a body bag. They don't want to be another body bag on the wrong side of the Clintons, because they know how many body bags there are on the wrong side of the Clintons. The point being, before we plug in our ads here, corruption feeds on itself. It's a symbiotic relationship. Corruption A and corruption B feed off each other. Always has, always will. Why? Because it's how they protect themselves against one another, believe it or not. We're going to talk more about that here in just a minute after we plug in the ads. I'm going to explain that and tie that back into why the FBI so desperately has to have personal, direct dirt on Trump. Ads coming in. For those on YouTube watching, this is going to be some awkward dead air. I apologize. I don't know how the ad things work yet, but we're going to find out. Awkward dead air. Nebraska's not even ranked. What the? Our football season was not at all what we expected. Basketball team's not even ranked. Where is the money going? Anyways, we're back, and we're gonna go ahead and tie in all this stuff here. We're gonna make it all tie together. As I was just saying, corruption feeds on corruption. Corruption from party A feeds on corruption from party B. It's used as a protective shield. Why? Clinton can't get away with disappearing, exposing, whatever, high-ranking members of the FBI. Why? Because the FBI has dirt on her. She does that, someone feels threatened, bloop. Not all of it, but enough comes out to send a message of back off, or we're going to sink you, and you will spend the rest of your miserable life in jail. Conversely, other side of the coin, FBI can't get rid of Hillary Clinton. Why? Because Hillary Clinton, they already know, is maintaining servers off-grid. You think this was the only server Hillary Clinton had? This is the only one she got caught with. She has other servers. Anyone who participates in the level of corruption that Hillary Clinton is openly participating in now has server upon server, terabytes upon terabytes of information against people in the FBI. So the FBI can't expose Hillary because they know Hillary can turn around and go, you can't, I'm not going down for this. You authorized it. You participated in it. You directed it. You appropriated the funds for it. Whatever. So that corruption both feeds off itself and shields itself from one another. In the same way that soap is both hydrophilic and hydrophobic, it's the same principle with the corruption. Now, what does that have to do with Trump? What does that have to do with the FBI so desperately needing to now directly link this investigation to Trump, knowingly or unwittingly? Mind you, that was in there. Nonetheless, direct dirt on Trump. Well, for the exact reason we just talked about with Hillary. If there's no corruption from the Trump administration on this stuff, if there's nothing significant, why do you think they care that plug the littles' ears, send the littles out for this part? But I'm going to be honest with you about some stuff here. So 5, 4, little ones, you have 5 seconds to vacate the premise, get out of the room. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go hide, go play the quiet game, give mom and dad some downtime. Why do you think the liberal media was so hell-bent on the fact that Stormy Daniels gave him a blowjob? 12 years before he was president, whatever it was. Why do you think they care about that so much? They certainly didn't care when Bill Clinton got a blowjob from an intern in the Oval Office. That wasn't a problem. But this is? That doesn't make any sense. Because they're desperate for some type of relevant dirt to put on the guy. Problem is, they realized it wasn't relevant. They realized it wasn't going to stick. They let the media do its fiasco thing, and now it's blown over and gone. Other than Stormy Daniels owes a whole lot of money for legal fees, but that's neither here nor there. This is the point, though. That's it. That's the point. They are desperate to find anything that they can to protect themselves. That's why they're doing this investigation. And quite frankly, I think they're scared enough of Trump that if they had found anything, they would put it out there. They would go ahead and get him removed before he can get people deep enough into the FBI that they can start pulling files and go, yeah, here's the corruption we were looking for about the FBI. The statements that the actual Constitution-fearing people in this country, but not fearing as in scared of, fearing as in respecting, people in this country knew existed, now we've got the hard proof. They're desperate to get him out before that happens, because it will happen. Make no mistake, it will happen, and it will be the floodgate that opens into the CIA and the NSA right along with it. It's gonna happen. But that is why the FBI is so desperate to get him out, to get dirt on him, to find something legitimate, to wave in our faces and say, this man is not fit to hold office. You can't trust anything this man says. And the media lapdogs are a willing participant. Make no mistake about it. That's it for part 1 of episode 1. I'm going to cut this. It's a little short. I'm going to cut it to make sure that we don't go over. When we come back with part 2, we're going to talk about what's the real reason behind liberal Democrats fighting the wall so darn hard. It's a lot more than just getting votes into the states that the illegals are flocking to. The blue states, the West Coast states, the East Coast states, stuff like that. There's more than meets the eye, and it's being kept very, very quiet by the media, and I'm interested to see how many of y'all know where I'm going with this. We'll be back with part 2. It'll get uploaded here in just a little bit. Give me some time. Stand by to stand by.